This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The non-aligned movement has praised the leadership of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, in strengthening joint African action, supporting just causes, and consolidating international cooperation in the interests of the countries of the South. As UNICEF warned against the disastrous situation prevailing in the Gaza Strip, the head of the UN Humanitarian Operations, Tom Fletcher, affirmed that the funneling of humanitarian aid constituted a tremendous task. And the African Union Commission has announced the dispatch of a high-level delegation to Madagascar amid ongoing political instability in the country. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First in our news, the Deputy Defense Minister, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, General Saad Shingriha, is paying an official visit to the Republic of South Korea to participate in the International Show of Defense and Aerospace ADEX 2025. During the visit, which is part of the strengthening of relations between the People's National Army and the Armed Forces of the Republic of South Korea, the two sides will discuss issues of common interests. The non-aligned movement meeting in Kampala, Uganda, has praised the leadership of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, in strengthening joint African action, supporting just causes, and consolidating international cooperation in the interests of the countries of the South. Mariam Bershi has more details in this report.
The final documents issued at the end of the ministerial meeting praised the efforts made by President Abdelmadjid Tebboune as part of the mission entrusted by the African Union, particularly his mandate as AU coordinator for counter-terrorism, as well as his wise leadership of the Forum of Heads of State and Government of the African Peer Review Mechanism. The non-aligned movement held the President's proposal to establish an African Day dedicated to the memory of the martyrs and victims of colonialism in Africa, as well as his intention to organize an international conference on the crimes of colonialism in coordination with the AU Commission. The non-aligned movement also highlighted President Tebboune's constant support for the Palestinian people, notably through his personal sponsorship of reconciliation efforts aimed at reinforcing Palestinian unity and the valuable initiatives undertaken by Algeria under his leadership within the UN Security Council in support of the Palestinian cause. The non-aligned movement also highlighted Algeria's efforts to promote international multilateral action in the interest of the countries of the South, such as its successful chairmanship of the negotiation process for the UN Convention on Cybercrime and its leadership of the Special Committee in charge of developing a comprehensive international convention on combating the use of information and communication technologies for criminal purposes, as well as its direct contribution to the adoption by the Human Rights Council of an important resolution on the impact of anti-personnel mines.
And during its 19th ministerial meeting held in Kampala, the non-aligned movement has reaffirmed its traditional and consistent position in favor of the right of the people of Western Sahara to self-determination. In the final document issued at the end of the meeting, the NAM reiterated its continued support for the efforts of the United Nations Secretary General and his personal envoy for Western Sahara aimed at achieving a political solution that guarantees the Sahrawi people to exercise their right to self-determination in accordance with the principles and objectives of the UN Charter and General Assembly Resolution 1514 on the declaration of the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples. The movement stressed that all options enabling the Sahrawi people to exercise their right to self-determination remain valid, provided that they reflect their freely expressed will and are in line with the principles clearly set out in the General Assembly resolutions. The Minister of Health, Mohammed Sadiq Ait Masoudan, has received the representative of the World Health Organization WHO office in Algeria, Mr. Fanuel Habimana, who praised Algeria's commitment to strengthening its health system as well as the positive indicators reflecting its strength. Mariam Bershi develops.
During the meeting, Mr. Habimana highlighted Algeria's effort and strong commitment to strengthening the capacity of its health system, as well as the concrete progress made by the national health system. He highlighted in this respect the positive indicators reflecting the strength of the health system and the level of medicine in the public and private sectors. The World Health Organization representative also praised the major achievements made by Algeria in the field of local production of medicines, which now cover more than 82% of the national market's needs, describing this effort as a model to follow on the African continent in terms of pharmaceutical safety and health sovereignty. The two parties discussed ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation between the Ministry of Health and the WHO and raise it to the highest level in accordance with the priorities of the health sector in Algeria and in line with regional and international health objectives. Meanwhile, the Algerian Minister of Health emphasized the importance of implementing the electronic patient record, which constitutes a central focus of the sector's digital transformation process and one of its main objectives to be achieved before the end of the current year. At the opening of a meeting on digitization of the electronic patient record, which he co-chaired with the Minister of Pharmaceutical Industry, Mr. Wassim Kouideri, the Minister of Health, stated that this project will standardize medical data and avoid the duplication of examinations and analysis, while contributing to improving patient monitoring, reducing delays, optimizing resources, and strengthening management methods and coordination between different health facilities. Mr. Ait Masoudan also highlighted the critical importance of the National Patient Identification Number as a strategic tool guaranteeing the accuracy and integrity of data across healthcare networks.
The National People's Assembly has obtained the status of sole observer at the International Parliamentary Assembly of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, AIPA, during its 46th General Assembly held in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, from today until next Monday. A statement from the lower house of parliament indicated that the Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boughali, received on the occasion congratulatory messages from the ambassadors of the Socialist Republic of Indonesia, Malaysia and Vietnam. In this context, the ambassadors of the three countries, which are among the founding members of ASEAN, praised the effective dynamism of Algerian parliamentary diplomacy, which seeks to expand the scope of its activities to include cooperation with the Asian continent, especially or specifically with the countries of Southeast Asia, in order to work together to promote the principles of peace, security, stability and progress. And a delegation from both chambers of parliament, headed by the Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Azzouz Nasri, is participating in the 151st Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, IPU, and its side meetings held in Geneva, Switzerland. Mariam Barshi gives us more details.
A statement from the Council of the Nation said that during the meetings, which will extend until the 23rd of the current month, representatives of the world's peoples will discuss current international and regional issues and appropriate solutions to various challenges and crises as part of the general debate, which will revolve around the adherence to humanitarian standards and support for humanitarian action in times of crisis. Participants will also address topics discussed within the framework of the statutory bodies and standing committees of the Union. According to the same source, the Assembly will adopt resolutions on the emergency item to be selected by the members of the IPU and ratify the decisions of its standing committees. Prior to the opening of the Assembly's proceedings, the Joint Parliamentary Delegation will participate in coordination meetings of the Arab and African geopolitical groups and the Islamic group with the aim of coordinating efforts and unifying positions on issues of common concerns.
Shifting now to the Middle East, as UNICEF warned against the disastrous situation prevailing in the Gaza Strip, the head of the UN Humanitarian Operations, Tom Fletcher, affirmed that the funneling of humanitarian aid constituted a tremendous task. Marim Barshi again.
During a visit to the devastated territory, he said that there was a 60-day-long plan to speed up the funneling of aid, distribute 1 million meals every day, and rebuild the health sector devastated by 2 years of intense Israeli bombardments. During this period of time, he went on to say rents will be installed in anticipation of winter, reiterating that the UN agency can contribute to bringing tens of thousands of children back to school. In this connection, UNRWA affirmed that more than 80,000 of its teachers in the Gaza Strip were ready to do so. In a statement published on social networks, he recalled that UNRWA was the major humanitarian organization operating in the Strip and must be authorized to fulfill its task within any obstacles. This came as the main coordinator of UNICEF, Hamish Younger, stressed the necessity to allow an emergency humanitarian aid without any restrictions to meet the increasing needs of Gaza's population. He pointed out that the quality of the aid needed by the Palestinians was important as its quality is, and insisted that it was urgent to provide fuel as well as the necessary equipment to the production and distribution of water and rehabilitation of devastated desalination plants. In the meantime, the Israeli army pursued its attacks on Gaza, killing over 11 Palestinians, including 7 children and 2 women. The attack, perpetrated in the districts east of Gaza City, was condemned by the head of the Palestinian National Council, Rawhi Fitouh, as a crime that reflects the policy planned and implemented by the occupying authorities against the Palestinian people. He rejected the attack as a blatant violation of international humanitarian law and denounced the Israeli occupying authorities' contempt for human values.
Human rights defense associations have denounced as illegal the decisions taken by the Moroccan justice against 4 Sahrawi students. The Sahrawi Citizens Defense Committee, related to the collective of the Sahrawi human rights defenders in Western Sahara, CODESA, affirmed that the ruling were part of the punitive logic and the repressive policy aimed at silencing those free voices defending the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination within the Moroccan universities. In this respect, CODESA called for the release of all detainees and for an end to all forms of harassment and abuses targeting Sahrawi militants and students. And the African Union Commission has announced the dispatch of a high-level delegation to Madagascar amid ongoing political instability in the country. This announcement follows the decisions adopted by the AU Peace and Security Council on the situation in Madagascar. On this occasion, the chairperson of the AU Commission, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, stressed the urgency of concerted diplomatic efforts to promote genuine and constructive dialogue between the Malagasy parties with a view to facilitating a peaceful return to constitutional democratic order, according to the statement. In coordination with the Southern African Development Community, the Commission will also send members of the panel of the WISE and a special envoy to Antananarivo in the coming days. It was reported Mr. Yusuf urged all Malagasy stakeholders to commit in good faith in a spirit of compromise and national unity to a peaceful and consensual resolution of the current political situation. The African Union announced on Wednesday the immediate suspension of Madagascar from its institutions following the unconstitutional changes that the country has experienced in recent days following the military seizure of power. Colonel Michel Randrianirina, who was sworn in as president of Madagascar before the High Constitutional Court on Friday, said he was open to talks with the African Union, which a day earlier suspended the country's membership after President Andry Rajoelina was ousted. Randrianirina told a news conference that the AU's decision was expected, adding that there will be behind-the-scenes negotiations to see how things will unfold. For his part, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned what he termed the unconstitutional change of government in the island country, calling for a return to constitutional order. Meanwhile, nearly 29,000 people in Madagascar's Grand Sud region are currently facing emergency-level food insecurity, according to the Integrated Food Insecurity or Security Phase Classification (IPC). This figure could reach 110,000 by 2026, according to the UN Office for the Coordination for Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA. And Afghanistan and Pakistan are holding peace talks today in Doha, both sides said, after the South Asian neighbors extended a ceasefire following a week of fierce border clashes. Pakistan and Afghanistan extended the 48-hour truce for the duration of the Doha talks as they seek to resolve the clashes that killed dozens and wounded hundreds in the worst violence between the two countries since 2021. In a statement, Pakistan's Foreign Office said Defense Minister Khwaja Mohammad Asif will lead discussions with representatives of the Afghan Taliban, the first ground fighting between the one-time allies, and Pakistani airstrikes across their contested 2,600-kilometer frontier were triggered after Islamabad demanded that Kabul rein in militants who had stepped up attacks in Pakistan, saying they operated from havens in Afghanistan. And finally, in the United States, protesting the direction of the country under President Donald Trump, people are demonstrating today in the nation's capital and communities across the north or the country for No Kings demonstration that, or what the president's Republican Party is calling Hate America rallies. It is the third mass mobilization since Trump's return to the White House, and it is expected to be the largest. It comes against the backdrop of a government shutdown that not only has closed federal programs and services, but is testing the core balance of power as an aggressive executive confronts Congress and the courts in ways that organizers warn are a slide toward American authoritarianism. And with this, we come to the end of this news bulletin. Time now for our weekly programs. I'll meet you again tomorrow for a fresh edition of our news bulletin. Thank you. To travel